You wake up to an alarm. You check a clock before you check anything else, including how you feel. You have a job title, a manager who tracks your hours, and a contract somewhere in a filing system that spells out exactly what you owe your time to and for how long. None of this feels strange to you. It has simply always been this way, hasn't it? For roughly 300,000 years, it wasn't. No alarm, no manager, no clock to punch, no title to put on a form. For nearly the entire span of time that anatomically modern humans have existed, walking the same earth, sleeping under the same stars, nothing resembling a job, the way you understand one, existed at all. There was only the day and whatever needed to be done inside it. So what did your ancestors actually spend their time doing? And how much of a day did finding food really eat up? In 1963, an anthropologist named Richard Lee decided to find out. He moved in with the Juhwanzi, a community of hunter-gatherers living in the Kalahari Desert of what is now Namibia and Botswana, sometimes called the Kung, and he timed them. Not casually. He logged the hours people actually spent hunting, digging up wild tubers and gathering nuts and berries, day after day, for weeks. The number that came back stunned the field. Around 15 hours a week. Add tool repair and food preparation, and the total still landed under 30. Now compare that to your week. Lee's number was strange enough that another anthropologist, Marshall Salins, picked it up and built an entire argument out of it. In an essay that became one of the most cited in anthropology, he called hunter-gatherer life the original affluent society. Not affluent in possessions, since the Juhwanzi owned almost nothing they couldn't carry. Affluent in time. It wasn't a one-off finding. Decades later, anthropologist Frank Marlowe ran similar time studies among the Hadza of Tanzania, a different hunter-gatherer group on a different continent, and found a strikingly similar pattern: workloads that left enormous stretches of the day unscheduled. Researchers Kim Hill and Magdalena Hurtado found much the same thing on the other side of the planet. Among the Ake of eastern Paraguay, a forest-dwelling hunter-gatherer people whose daily subsistence work also clustered well under modern full-time hours. 3 continents, 3 unrelated peoples, separated by oceans and thousands of years of separate history, and still the same basic shape of a day. And more recently, anthropologist James Suzman spent years embedded with the same Juhwanzi communities Lee had studied, and noticed something the raw hours alone didn't capture. The line between work and rest barely existed for them at all. Gathering food, fixing a digging stick, minding a child, telling a joke, all of it blurred together into the texture of one day, with no clock marking where the job ended and the rest of life began. There was no job because there had never been a not job to separate it from. So picture the day itself. You wake up when your body decides you're finished sleeping, not when a sound tells you to. There's no rush. The sand outside the shelter is already warm. You eat something left over from the day before. Then the group talks it over, loosely, about what the day actually calls for. Someone noticed fresh tracks near the waterhole. The mongongo trees a few kilometres out might be dropping nuts again. A group, often the women, heads out to gather. A smaller group, often the men, might go after game, though on most days they'll come back empty-handed because hunting large animals is slow, unreliable, and most of the calories on most days come from gathering, not from the hunt. The air smells like dust and the green snap of broken stems. somewhere nearby, children are doing what children always do, mimicking the adults, digging miniature holes with miniature digging sticks, learning the work before anyone ever calls it a lesson. Nobody is grading them on it. Nobody is timing them either. By early afternoon, most people are back in camp. Food gets shared, often against the gatherer's own short-term interest, because sharing is the insurance policy of a forager. There's no refrigerator out there. The only place to store meat is in other people's stomachs, on the understanding that they'll return the favour when your own hands come back empty. And then there is nothing scheduled at all. This is the part that breaks the modern frame if you're picturing it as a day off. The afternoon and evening weren't a reward for finishing work. They were just the rest of the day, the same as the part before lunch. People rested, they made and repaired tools, they groomed each other, argued, napped in the shade. And after dark, something specific happened that anthropologist Polly Wiesner noticed when she compared what Liu Huanxi conversations actually sounded like during the day versus at night, around the fire. In a 2014 study, she found daytime talk tended to be practical and a little tense, economic complaints, friction over who took what from whom. But firelight talk, once the sun went down, shifted almost entirely into stories, myth, and song. Wiesner argued this nightly ritual wasn't idle chatter filling dead time. It was how an entire culture's knowledge, values, and social bonds got passed down, night after night, around the one screen anyone had. Here's the twist, and it's the part that should make you a little uncomfortable. If foragers were working 15 to 20 hours a week, why does nearly every culture on Earth now work so much more? The instinct is to assume humans got lazy and farming fixed it. It's closer to the opposite. When humans started farming, around 12,000 years ago, the workload went up, not down. A field doesn't forgive you for resting. Crops need planting, weeding, guarding, harvesting, storing and defending, from animals, weather, and other humans who might want to take them. Researchers studying skeletal remains from early farming populations, including paleopathologist Mark Cohen, found increased signs of physical stress, shorter stature, and nutritional deficiency compared to the foragers who lived in the very same regions, on the very same land, just a few centuries before them. Farming bought density. It bought surplus eventually, and the population growth that came with it. It did not buy free time. It bought a debt to a field that never stopped needing something from somebody. Picture a different kind of day, the kind that became common only after farming took hold. Dawn breaks over a cleared field instead of open grassland. There's no deciding whether today calls for gathering or resting. The seedlings decide that for you, and they decided it months ago. Weeds don't wait. Pests don't wait. A late frost or a dry season can erase a year of work in a single week, so the work never really stops long enough to check. By the time the sun is fully up, you've already been bent over a row of crops for hours, hauling water, pulling weeds by hand, checking the same stalks of wheat or barley you checked yesterday, and will check again tomorrow. There will be hours more before dark, then more again tomorrow, then the next season's planting before this season's harvest is even fully stored. Because a field, unlike a stretch of savanna, cannot be left alone and trusted to still be giving when you come back to it. Time allocation studies of living subsistence farmers tell the same story from another angle. Anthropologist Alan Johnson, studying the Mashiguenga of the Peruvian Amazon, recorded average work weeks well above 40 hours, and that's before counting whatever extra labour, a bad season, a pest, or a failed harvest demanded on top of it. Foraging had a ceiling on how much a day could ask of you. Farming never did. So here's the mirror, and it points straight back at you. Your job, the one with the title, the manager, the fixed hours, isn't the default setting of being human. It's a recent layer stacked on an older layer of farming, stacked on top of nearly 300,000 years in which your ancestors worked less in a week than you might work in 3 or 4 days, and never once needed a phrase like work-life balance, because work had never been split off from life in the first place. The exhaustion you feel by Friday isn't proof you're undisciplined or behind. It's friction. A body built for a 15-hour week being asked to run every single week on a schedule invented long after that body had already finished evolving. You check a clock before you check how you feel. You have somewhere to be. And somewhere, your phone is already lit up with tomorrow's first request, waiting for an alarm that, for nearly all of human history, never had any reason to exist at all.